Football fans of Pitt County, well,
That was nice.
welcome into. Hey, I tried to shake it up.
No, it sounded like you were a politician.
It was very in your face, yeah.
Football fans, listen to my words.
Of Pitt County and maybe other counties if you're watching this on the YouTube.
Worldwide.
Yeah. Welcome to the week one of the playoff edition of the Fearless Football Forecast, Tony. I'm Reflector Prep Sports beat writer Jordan Anders. You can tell I've been working on that all year.
Yeah.
This is Tony Castleberry.
Hello.
Do everything for the Reflector.
Hi.
And we've got 4 playoff games to break down this week, Tony.
Yeah.
The postseason is finally here.
Yeah.
So we've got 2 in the 2A ranks, 2 in 4A, and we'll go ahead and jump right in. In the 2A ranks, excuse me, this is Red Springs at Ayden Grifton. We got 2 home games coming up in Pitt County Friday night. Ayden Grifton is one of them, hosting a Red Springs team that comes in at 6-5 and on paper presents a so-so challenge, but for Ayden Grifton, I mean, this is a team coming off of a huge conference championship win on the road last week, pretty convincing against North Lenoir.
Yeah.
I mean, everything that we've talked about for the last couple of months as they've been clicking with the run game and the defense and just the overall toughness that these Paul Cornwell teams usually show.
Absolutely.
This is the time of year that all that builds to within that program. So not going to spend a ton of time here. I think that Ayden Grifton is playing really, really well, and this team was not built to go out in the first round. So I think that they get at least one win. They win at home and move on to the second round.
Yeah, I don't know that I've ever said this, but I agree with everything you said. I like the way that this Ayden Grifton team has been trending, and I don't see that stopping in the playoffs. They're playing their best football of the season at the end of the year, which is what Coach Cornwell wanted, I'm sure. And getting that conference title was just one notch on their belt. I feel like they want to try to make some noise in the state playoffs, and this is their first chance. I'm going to agree with you. I think Ayden Grifton probably wins that one pretty handily, particularly being at home.
Agreed.
Also in 2A, Farmville Central, a team that kind of, I guess, maybe sneaked into the playoffs kind of in a way.
Yeah.
But took care of business when it had to, did what it had to do to get in.
That's one way of putting it.
Yeah, at 6-5, going to East Bladen, which is 7-4. It seems to me that I see East Bladen's name in the playoffs. It seems like almost every year. They're usually pretty good. But Farmville Central, frisky, 45-14 win over North Johnston. Again, like I said, won the games that it had to win. After the middle part and even toward the end of the season, I know that I thought that their chances of making the playoffs were a long shot.
Yeah, we're not great.
Yeah, I didn't know if they would even get in, but now that they're here, maybe that win last week kind of turned things around for them. It seems like they're in a pretty good spot now, but I imagine this challenge at East Bladen is going to be pretty tough. And just going on record alone and kind of how up and down Farmville Central has been, I'm going to pick East Bladen there. Okay.
Well, the interesting thing is that the way the bracket matches up, the winner of that game will play the winner of Red Springs and Ayden Grifton. So if the 2 local teams were to win out, they would meet up in the second round. And after being on the scene and seeing what they did, what Farmville Central did to North Johnston last week, I'm going to say that happens. I'm going to take the Jaguars to go on the road and get a win.
Okay.
It was one thing for them to beat a North Pitt team that only won a game this year, but against a North Johnston team that had a shot at a conference championship last week.
Right.
I mean, they played like they were from, those 2 teams looked like they were from 2 different planets, how dominant Farmville Central was. So I think, where we talked about Ayden Grifton kind of rolling in with all the momentum, Ayden Grifton or Farmville Central, has picked up a lot of momentum in a real short amount of time. I think they ride that to a first round win.
Gotcha.
Jumping to the 4A ranks, this one is on the road. This is D.H. Conley at Cardinal Gibbons, which we all have our as you saw, we all have
can't stand Cardinal
our
Gibbons.
Opinions about Cardinal Gibbons.
I
and
don't like what they do
this time of year, but. But this is a 10-1 team. The fact of the matter is that they are in the position they're in, and Conley at 8-3 now has to travel to Cardinal Gibbons, and this Gibbons team. And looking at some of the numbers, they're fairly balanced. They've got an explosive run game and a passing game against the Conley defense that we've beat to death all year. Has shown flashes, but struggled overwhelmingly. So. This is going to be a tough matchup for Conley. I think, I'm going, at least for the first round, I'm going to pick Conley solely based on the fact that their offense is coming in off of back-to-back 70-point games.
Yeah.
They've scored at least 67 points in 4 games this year, 2 in the last 2 weeks. So I think offensively they're going to have enough firepower to go and roll through Cardinal Gibbons on the road, but it will not be easy.
Well, I want some down east toughness from Conley. I want them to go show these recruited kids at Cardinal Gibbons what down east football is about.
Right.
I want them to hit those kids in the mouth a little bit and see what happens. I don't want them to get penalties. Don't get me wrong. I don't literally want them to punch them in the
right
mouth.
way, exactly.
But I want them to take it to them because Cardinal Gibbons deserves whatever roughness comes their way. I'm pulling for Conley. I'll be on record as saying I hope they win just because I don't like what Cardinal Gibbons does. I think it's unfair. So their 10-1 record, they can stick it. Go Conley. I'm picking Conley there.
Fair enough.
The last game is Person, which is more than one person.
It's not a person.
Okay.
It's person.
It's Person County.
Person high. Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. That makes sense then, because I was going to pick Rose overwhelmingly if it was one person.
Just one person.
But
understandable.
More than one person is coming to J.H. Rose this week to take on the Rampants, which are, God, what a weird year for Rose. To sit here in 6-4 with all that talent, you feel like a couple of those wins could have gone either way. They very easily could be sitting here with 8 victories instead of just 6. Person is 7-4, and we were talking a little bit before we came in here that you were telling me not exactly a murderer's row that Person has beaten, right?
Not at all. No, those 7 wins against this Rose team is one of the better teams they faced this year. When they faced good teams, they've gone down in the 4 losses. The 7 wins against teams with a combined record of 21-55. So
wow.
They have those 7 wins are definitely maybe a little bit bloated based on the competition they were playing. But even regardless of how good Person is, I think with Rose, we mentioned Conley having scored 70 points coming in. Rose coming off a 70-point effort at Eastern Wayne because no one plays defense anymore.
No doubt.
And that offense is really, really good as Conley's is. But, E.J. Harris went over 2,000 yards, 2,100 yards in 10 games this year.
Yeah, and 31 touchdowns.
Absurd.
Is even more absurd.
Both those numbers are absolutely going to grow. I think Rose finally, they seem like they took a lump against New Bern a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Got in on a positive note with the win against Eastern Wayne, but this is the time of year, the last couple of years, where they've really managed to turn it on, harness it, and kind of turn it around. So I think they do the same this week and get a win to move on to the second round.
I agree, and I'm picking Rose mainly because I just want to see how many touchdowns E.J. Harris can score before the year is over.
Can he get close to 40? And the question.
Right, and as you have here, they're kind of getting some people back, even more offensive weapons. So if Person wants to come in here and try and have a high-scoring game with Rose, I like Rose's chances there. And you're right. It's time for Rose to turn on the playoff switch. That time is here, and I think the Rapids win.
Agreed. So that puts us. That takes care of all four games we have this week. You can find results of those games, write-ups on Saturday's edition of the Reflector at reflector.com. I'll have updates on Twitter at ReflectorJordan. He'll have various other Twitter stuff at T Castleberry GDR.
That's right.
And we'll
follow it.
Yeah, and we'll be back next week to break down those games and look ahead to the second round, Tony.
Right on.
All right. See ya.